Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth. I am a transaction coordinator here at Keller Williams, and we are going to go over some of the basics of Docusign. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. You're going to notice we're getting started in Command. We are not going to spend a ton of time in here. However, I want to show you how to look to confirm that your Docusign is linked to your command. To do so, you'll click your name in the upper right. You'll click Settings. And the first thing you see should say Docusign, and it should say Disconnect Account. Do not click that. However, if you see Disconnect Account, that means that your Docusign is linked to your command so that your rooms will be there and so that the opportunities that you make in command will be linked to your Docusign. So just confirm it's like that. If it says connect account instead of disconnect account, that means it is not integrated. You can reach out to anybody that is on the leadership team and we will get that connected for you. However, that should be done in the onboarding process. So moving on to the next step, we're going to go into opportunities. And you will have to, if you do not already have an opportunity created, you will have to create one. And so in this case, I'm going to make a test one real quick. We're going to do create opportunity. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on how to create this opportunity. Chris does do another training that goes over all of the command basics and everything like that if you do need that. I'm just going to quickly fill in this information. So once you have an opportunity created in Command, you're going to go into the Documents tab. Once in Documents, over here where it says pick a checklist type, click on that and do residential if it is North Carolina. You'll do South Carolina residential if it is South Carolina. However, most of your properties will probably be North Carolina. And if so, you'll just choose the residential option. Now, to get this integrated in with Docusign, you're going to hit Start a Transaction and choose Docusign. Normally this won't come up. This is because I was logged into a separate Docusign account. However, the screen for you to log in will come up. You'll notice how in Command it now says go to transaction. When you start the transaction, it should automatically take you to that Docusign room. This case was a little funky because I was logged into a separate Docusign account. However, in Command, if you click Go to Transaction, it'll take you right to that Docusign room that is for that opportunity that you created. So you'll notice we're in the Documents tab, and we already have forms that have come over. Since this was done as a listing opportunity, your listing documents that you are going to need have already come over, and they're in here. We'll spend a little more time on this here in a few minutes. However, I'm going to go into this Details tab and show you some things in here. And then we will move into the other tabs. So just to keep you updated with progress, we're going to start in the Details tab. We're then going to move to People, Messages, History. We'll loop back into Documents and then Envelopes because we're going to spend a lot of time there. So we'll loop back into that. In this Details tab, it is extremely important that you fill out this information so that your information fills into the forms for Docusign. If you do not fill in this Details tab, your information, your client's information will not come over to the forms. And I'll show you what I mean with that in just a few minutes. So in this, you're going to notice over here on the right side, this is typically where I start. Because we put this in as a listing opportunity in command, the contact that we attached, their information has already come over as seller one, again, because we did a listing opportunity. If I did this as a buyer opportunity, their information would fill in the buyer section. So your client's information should be filled in. Keep in mind, if you are on buyer side and you are writing an offer, you should know the seller's information, just their name, not their phone number, not their email. But if you are on the buyer side, you should know the seller's name, and I would put that in here. So we have seller one. As we scroll down, you see we have seller two. So if you do have like a married couple, maybe a parent child, anything like that, put them in their own fields. Don't put both of them under seller one, break them down. One under seller one under seller two. If it's just one person, then leave seller two blank. For the purpose of this, I'm going to leave seller two blank. As we scroll down, you'll see listing agent comes after seller two. Your information should come over for the respective opportunity that you made in command. So this was a listing opportunity. So I use Stephanie's command. So you'll see that Stephanie's information came over for the listing agent because it was a seller opportunity. As we scroll down, you'll see listing agent two. Fill that in. If there is somebody helping you with the transaction that is also going to be representing the property as a listing agent, or if you have a team, sometimes you'll break that down under listing agent one, listing agent two. For the purpose of this, I'm leaving it blank. As we scroll down, we see buyer one. So this is a listing opportunity. So chances are I don't know who the buyer is yet. So I'm going to leave that blank. However, if you are on buyer side, you're representing the buyer, you're going to want to fill their information in. For your client, I always put in their name, their phone number, and their email address. You can fill out the rest if you'd like, but for clients, I typically don't. You see we have buyer two next, same thing as sellers. If they are maybe a married couple, maybe a parent child, break them down, buyer one, buyer two. Do not put them on the same field. As always, if you only have one, leave buyer two blank. We scroll down, we see buyer agent. And so you'll fill that in if you know it. If it's yourself, fill it in. If you do fill in like any of the agent fields, I always recommend filling this in its entirety. And by the address, the company, everything. So for an agent, I fill in the name, phone number, email, company, and the full address. The reason being is that information is going to fill into the forms that you have. So if you go ahead and fill it out here, you don't have to fill it out later. The last field over here is buyer agent two. So if it's a situation where there is two buyer agents, you'll fill them out under each respective option. We're going to scroll back up. We're going to focus over here on the left. So under room information, this is just the name of this room in Docusign. And it's going to come over with your client's name dash what type of opportunity it was. So again, for this one, a listing. So Elisabeth Hussey dash listing. If this were a buyer opportunity, it would just say buyer, not listing. You'll notice beside each field, there is like an arrow pointing down. If you click that, it will collapse that field just to kind of get it out of the way. So the next field over here on the left is room information 2. I typically do not fill this in, but feel free to if you want to. Next one is location. I would fill this in its entirety because this is going to populate in a lot of forms. So it just makes it easier if you fill it out. So I would fill out the full address. I typically do not fill in the property type, year built, or special circumstances, but if you want to, go for it. The next one is listing details. So if you are a buyer, you skip this altogether. If this is a buyer opportunity, this is a listing opportunity. So for a listing opportunity, there are only two things I would fill in. One being listing expiration date, when this listing will expire, and then the other being listing amount. Again, those fill into the forms, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a few minutes. Offer details. If you are on the listing side, skip it. Chances are you don't know it yet unless you're coming into a listing already having a buyer. However, if you are on buyer side, I would fill out contract amount, earnest money amount, and entity holding earnest money, and financing type. It's typically all I fill out, but if you want to fill out more, go for it. High bid confirmation, I have never seen that used, so I would just skip it. Closing details, I typically don't fill this out, but if you would like to, maybe you want to keep all your information in Docusign, feel free to, but I typically skip right past closing details. Additional information, typically all I fill out from this is the commission for each side. And if there is an outside referral, I would fill out who that is to. And the percentage, because the referral will fill out on the referral agreement if you had one. The last field is property details. I typically leave it blank. If you want to fill it out, go for it. Once you have filled this out, it is important that you click this button that says save. If you do not, and you just move on to another tab, the information that you just took the time to fill out will not come over. You will have to redo it. So as stated earlier, we're going to move into the People tab next. In this People tab, this is the people that are associated with this Docusign room. You're always going to see three people at the start of a transaction, one being yourself, and the other two being KW admin and Wilmington service account. Those are associated with the Keller Williams Wilmington office. So you're always going to see those three. However, if you want to invite somebody else to the room, not as a client, but as somebody that is helping you with this transaction, maybe a transaction coordinator, or maybe it's your first transaction and you want your broker in charge to look over it, you can do that. You just hit this button that says invite. This comes up. You need to fill it out in its entirety. Once everything is filled out, you can click invite. Next tab is messages. I have personally not used this tab. However, if you want to send a message to everybody in the Docusign room, you can do it here by clicking start a new topic. I typically don't because it will include the Wilmington service account and the KW admin. And I personally find it easier just to reach out to them independently if I need something. So you can use it if you'd like. I just personally don't. Last tab is history. This history tab is going to show you everything that has happened in this Docusign room since it was started. So it's going to tell you anytime somebody has viewed a document, when a document was added. As you see, it even tells you when the details tab was updated, and it's going to give you timestamps. So it gives you date and timestamps on when those actions occurred. So that's in the history tab. Keep in mind, this is for the entire room, not document specific. You can see document specific history. I will show you how to do that in just a few minutes, but this is not where you do that at. So now we're going to go into this documents tab. So as you notice, like we had mentioned earlier, the documents that you need for a seller has already populated. This is a really cool feature that is relatively new. However, if you are missing documents, maybe you need something else, or maybe you need to upload something from your computer, you can do so by clicking this button that says add. If it is a document from your computer, you click Computer and you pull it over. You click the document you want and then you click Open. Now, let's say you want to add something that is a North Carolina real estate form. You can do that as well. Click Docusign Forms. You notice we have a few options over here. You have groups, the working with buyers. This is the forms that are typically required for buyers. You have a working with sellers, and then, which again is forms that are typical to sellers. Under libraries, you do have Jacksonville Board of Realtor forms. These are not commonly used forms in the Wilmington office. However, they are here if you need them. Keep in mind, this is associated with the Jacksonville Board of Realtors. The next one is the KW 978. This folder just houses the heritage title forms, which is required for buyers. It is not required for sellers, but you do have to have these two forms with buyers. And then the last one is the North Carolina Association of Realtor forms. This is every single form that is associated with the NCAR. And you can click a document if you need it, or you can even search up here if you need something specific and you don't want to scroll all the way through. You can search for it. Once you've selected what you want, you can either hit Add Selected if you are confident you selected the right ones. But you can also view this selected tab up here and it'll show you what you've selected. You can add selected from here if you want to bring it over. I'm just going to hit cancel because we already have what we need. So you're going to notice something here. All of these first 5 forms, they have a label that's blue and says form. This last one is red and says PDF. So these ones that say form, the information that you put in from the details tab is going to fill in to those documents. If it is a PDF, nothing fills in on it. You cannot edit a PDF in the documents tab. You can edit it in the envelopes tab, and I will show you how to do that shortly. Now, to get a document that shows as a form so that your information pre-fills, obviously some of them already come over, but if you need more, it's the Docusign Forms option. If you choose any of these other options, the information that you filled out is not going to come over. So we're going to click on one of these forms and I'm going to show you what it looks like when your information came over. So you notice that the client's information, your company name, your expiration date, the address, all of that has come over. But you see a bunch of other boxes and radio buttons as well. So these boxes on the form, if maybe you forgot something on the details tab, or maybe it was a section the details tab just doesn't cover, you can click on it and fill it out. If you need, maybe you noticed you messed up something to do with one of your other pieces that did fill in, you can erase it, you can fill it back in, and even these radio buttons will work. And it's like that for the entire form for any field that needs to be filled out. You'll notice up here, we have this document actions button. It looks like a piece of paper with the corner folded. You have a few options. You can rename it, you can move it, you can download it, print it, email it, all of that. However, do not download, print, email, or fax it unless you have hit save and close. If you do not hit save and close, anything you added on here will not go into that, either downloaded file or print. So if you're wanting to download it or print it so that somebody can review it, or maybe your client can hand sign it after you've taken the time to fill stuff in, please hit save and close and come back into it before you do that. Now, the next button up here is this little clock. It's the history button. This is going to show you history specific to this document. This is not for the entire room. This is for this document specifically. It'll tell you when it was viewed, when it was updated, and when it was added, timestamps included. Access, this is just who has access to this form specifically. When you're done, hit save and close. We'll close out of that form. Might take it a second. And then you can go through the rest of the forms and fill those out. For the purpose of this, I'm not going to, but you will need to for whenever you get into this. To show you what a PDF is like, you're going to see there's fields that need to be completed, but we can't do anything with it. We can't click it. We can't edit it because it's a PDF. So just keep that in mind. If it's a PDF, you cannot edit it in this Documents tab. So lastly, we're going to go over this Envelopes tab. This Envelopes tab is where you are going to send your files or documents out for your clients to sign. So they will not have the opportunity to electronically sign if you do not create an envelope. So to create an envelope, you can click New, or you can create a new envelope here. First things first, you're going to see envelope name. This is how it's going to label it on your side. To keep everything organized and so that you're not confused, please name it exactly what is in that file. So for this, it's 123 Main Street listing agreement. The next field is add documents to this envelope. You're gonna, if you already have the documents under the Documents tab, you're gonna want to hit Room Docs. As you see, every document that we had seen in that Documents tab is here. Check what you want your client to sign and hit Add Selected. You'll notice that 2 of these are forms. 1 of these is the PDF. If maybe you want to add a document that was not already in the Documents tab, you can do so by clicking More. Upload will let you pull it from your computer, or you can pull it from any of these other sources if you have them linked. Next one is Add Recipient. So the first option you see is pre-tagged roles. A little piece of information with that is pre-tagged roles only comes up if you chose a Docusign form. Pre-tagged roles will not work for PDFs. I will show you what I mean by that when we get to the signature fields. However, that being said, if you make an envelope with all PDF documents, you will not have that pre-tagged roles option. Because we do have forms that have come in here, we have that option. Pre-tagged roles will automatically include the initial and signature spots for that document. So we're going to go in, for this, it's a seller. So we're going to click this recipient drop-down box and choose who our seller is. We also know who our listing agent is because it's us. So we'll click our name here and we will hit Add Selected. Now, if you want to add somebody that is not, maybe not a client, maybe it's the other agent involved in the transaction, or maybe it is your transaction coordinator, you can do so by doing email address, putting in their name, putting in their email address. You'll notice over here, there's a bunch of number 1. Really cool feature about Docusign is, let's say you want Tiffany as our transaction coordinator, and maybe we want Tiffany to get these documents just to see them after everybody is signed. Erase out this number 1 and put Tiffany as number 2. And if you want her to just get a copy of the documents that are completed, choose this Receives a Copy option. What this means is Tiffany she doesn't need to sign, she just needs to get a copy of the documents, but she will not get those copies of documents until Elizabeth and Stephanie have signed. This is a really cool feature if you do have a transaction coordinator that you're working with. Now, let's say you added somebody by mistake. If you hover over them, this little X comes up and you can click on them to erase them out. This last field is a message to all recipients. Please, please, please remember that what you put in these fields, your client will see. So I still would like to have it named exactly what's in that envelope so that your client is aware. So I would name it 123 Main Street listing documents. If you want to enter a message in the body of the message, feel free to do so. This email subject is the subject line of the email that will come over. Let's say up here, maybe you added a document that you didn't mean to. Same thing as with the recipients. If you hover over it, this X comes up and you can click on it and remove it. Now, to add the signature fields and have our client sign, we're going to hit next. So you'll see the information that we had put in earlier has already come in. And your signature spot has come in because this was a form. This was a Docusign form that came over. You'll notice over here, we have a breakdown of our documents that are in this envelope. And you can expand these out, you can collapse them. And let's say you want to go to a specific page, you can do so by either scrolling or clicking over here on the page that you want to go to. Now with this PDF, if you need to add information into a PDF document, you can do so depending on what you need. As you see, there's a bunch of options over here on the left, and you'll notice at the top, it says Elisabeth Hussey. If you had multiple people that were going to sign this document, there would be more than Elisabeth Hussey in here, but I removed them all out and they will be color coded. So if you had 2 sellers and yourself, y'all would all have 3 different colors. That way it's easy to kind of look and see who's signing what. Now here, we need to clearly put in a name. And so if you want to put in your client's name, you can do this name option under the respective name that you want to fill in. So for this one, I'm going to do Elisabeth Hussey. You'll notice when you click it, you drag it and then drop it where you want it to go. It just says full name. That is because when your client or whoever you're sending this to, whenever they get the email from Docusign to sign, it's going to ask them to verify their name. So it's going to pull over the name that they fill in. So that's why it just says full name. However, when you get the document completed back, it'll be the name that they told Docusign. Now over here, property, we clearly need an address, which you can add by doing this text field. You click it, drag it to where you want it to go. And you'll notice some of these options will have these white dots so that you can expand it out. You can make it smaller, you can make it bigger. I'm going to make it bigger on this one. And then you can just start typing what you want to go in here. And let's say we obviously made this a little too big. Well, we can shrink it even after we have stuff in there. As we scroll down, we see we need some checkboxes. So that is an option over on the left. We'll click checkbox. Put this where you want it to go. It'll come over as a blank checkbox, giving your client the option to check it if they want to, but you can double click it and it checks it. Here we need some signatures. So we'll do signature. And we have those white dots so we can make it fit this space. And then we even have a date signed option. So we'll put that right here. It says date signed, however, it's going to fill in with the exact date your client signed it. So if we sent it today, but they don't sign until tomorrow, it's going to have tomorrow's date on it, not today. You'll notice there's a bunch of other options though, including initials. So maybe your document just needs an initial, you have that option. And if you want to make a test envelope yourself and kind of play around with these options, that might be a good idea. We're going to scroll down and you'll see that there's information here that we need that we've already taken the time to fill out. So a really cool thing with Docusign, if you scroll up, you can click and drag to highlight it. And you can either right click or Control-C on your keyboard to copy it. Come down to where you want it and you can paste it, or Control-V on your keyboard. And then you can just drag it where you want it. And that way you didn't have to fill out the address and all of that again. You can do the same thing with signature fields. As you see, we need more signatures. You can just kind of copy it. So those are our documents that need to be signed. Now, let's say you want to see the exact view that your client is going to see. You can do that by clicking Recipient Preview. You'll notice it says Viewing As. So if you have multiple people, you can click on this and choose who you want to view it as. Maybe you have one person that's struggling to sign it. And you have a few different views. You have desktop view, which shows you this is exactly what they will see whenever they, and you can click it, interact with it, but it will not save your signatures. But you can view it on a tablet or even a mobile phone. Mobile phone is the most common viewed for these. However, I do always try to get clients to sign it on a desktop if possible, because as you can see, the phone view is very, very small and it's kind of hard to read. So I understand that not everybody has the option for signing on a desktop, but if they do, I would recommend that they sign it on a desktop, because you'll notice too, on a mobile view, it makes it look like they're signing in a weird spot. However, they're not actually signing here. And when the document's completed, it'll be in the right area. But because it's so consolidated on a phone, it just comes over to, in their view, a little wonky. When you're done viewing as them, click this little X. When you're ready to send it, you want them to get it, to sign it, hit this Send button. Now, let's say you sent it and then the client calls you or texts you or emails you and says something is wrong. You can correct it. So you'll see it says waiting for others. If you click on this, you have a few options. One, you can resend it to them. So maybe they haven't signed it in a couple days. You can resend it to them. It'll send them an email reminder. You can also correct it. So let's say your client says maybe they didn't get it and you realize their email is wrong. You can edit their email. Or if maybe it's an issue with where they're signing at, you can click Edit Signing Fields up here in the upper right. And it's going to take you back to that editing view that we were at just a few seconds ago. And you can move stuff around if you need to. You can edit it. While you are editing, your client cannot sign. It will kick them out. So if there is an issue, just tell them to exit out, give you a couple of minutes to revise it. When you're done editing it however you need to, hit Continue. And then hit Send when you're ready for it to go back to them. Once you hit Send, they will get another email and they should be able to sign it. I'm going to go through real quick and just sign this so I can show you what the completed view looks like. Give me one moment. So I have signed on my phone. Docusign does take a little bit to update. So I would give it 30 seconds to a minute, and we're going to let it give time to load. I'm going to go into this Details tab. I'm going to go back in envelope. So it still hasn't loaded. So I'm going to exit out. As you see, I'm back in Command. I'm going to go back to the transaction. As you see in this Documents tab, once documents are signed, there's a lot more documents in here. You'll have some versions that'll say signed and it'll be green with a check mark. Those are the ones that your clients have signed. You can click on those and you can see where their signature spot is at. And if you want to download this or print it, you can, and it'll download or print it with the signatures. We're going to go back into this Envelopes tab, and you'll notice it now says completed. That means everybody that's needed to sign or maybe receive a copy, they've done it. And it'll show you when they signed. And you can click View Documents. You'll see the documents, quick overview of what they signed. If you click it, you do have two button options. One is download, which is the first one. The second one is print. So if you want to download or print it from here, you can. So that is the end of our Docusign class, going over the basics of Docusign. If you have any questions, maybe something that wasn't covered in here that you need help with, feel free to reach out to me. My email is closing@kwilm.com. I am not local. I moved out of the state over a year ago. So if you need me, unfortunately, I will not be in the office, but you can reach me via email. Thank you for taking the time to attend this, and I hope y'all have a great day.